In just 2 weeks, Ukraine's F-16s are erasing Russian command posts. Today's big story comes from the skies over Ukraine, where Kyiv's newly expanded Air Force has launched a surgical airstrike campaign aimed not just at Russian soldiers, but at the very nerve centers of Russia's battlefield leadership. In the last 2 weeks, Ukraine's F-16s and Mirage 2000s, combined with MiG-29s armed with Western smart munitions, have struck 19 high-value Russian targets. Many of these targets were not just random outposts, they were command posts, troop concentrations, and drone hubs, the kind of assets that hold Russian offensives together by a thread. And threadbare is exactly how Russia's military is starting to look. Hey friends, Wes here, veteran of the U.S. Army and the U.S. Air Force, Juris Doctor, MBA, International Relations degree, the usual. And it all started with months of systemic strikes on Russian air defense. In recent months, Ukraine has significantly increased strikes on Russian air defense systems, reportedly destroying and damaging numerous systems, including S-400, S-300, and S-350 systems. Storm shadows and deep strike drone raids cleared enough breathing room for Ukraine's fighter pilots to finally fly with less fear of being plucked from the sky. Once that corridor opened, the F-16s and Mirages went fangs out. Near Grafivka in Belgorod, Ukrainian pilots delivered a precision strike with American GBU-62 JDAM bombs, obliterating a Russian checkpoint turned ammunition dump. Not far from there, a string of Ukrainian air raids hammered force concentrations in Givo and Gaptavrika, stalling Russian reinforcements before they could mass. Kursk took a beating too. French-supplied AASM hammer bombs dropped from aging MiG-29s, now reborn as smart bombers, leveled Russian drone operator nests and took out a bridge critical for armored vehicle movements. Ukraine has been methodically capturing the initiative in the air for the past 4 months. By the time strikes were hitting command hubs near Kupiansk and Soledar and Pokrovsk, it was clear Ukraine had shifted gears. They were not just playing defense anymore, they were hunting Russian commanders before they could even organize their troops. At Kherson, one particularly devastating strike killed about 30 Russian officers from the 81st Self-Propelled Artillery Regiment. When the Russians hastily sent in reinforcements and tried to set up a new command post, Ukrainian intelligence located them again. A second airstrike followed and wiped them out too. The success of Ukraine's recent airstrike campaign is not just about new pilots or new planes, it's about new weapons. Precision-guided munitions that allow Ukrainian pilots to hit the heart of Russian command structures with brutal efficiency. 2 munitions in particular are doing most of the heavy lifting. The GBU-62 JDAM, the Joint Direct Attack munition, is one of them. The JDAM turns a simple unguided bomb into a smart all-weather GPS-guided weapon, strapped onto the back of a traditional Mark 80 series bomb. The JDAM kit gives Ukrainian pilots the ability to release from a safe distance and guide the bomb onto a target with the accuracy of just a few meters. The GBU-62 variant, sometimes called the Quick Strike ER, adds extended range, allowing strikes from up to 40 miles away, well outside the reach of most Russian air defenses. The other one is the AASM Hammer, a French masterpiece of battlefield engineering. The Hammer is more than a bomb, it's a modular weapon system. Think of it like a Lego for smart bombs. Ukrainian pilots can adjust their guidance kits, GPS, laser, or inertial navigation, and range extensions based on the mission. The Hammer allows a Mirage or a MiG-29 to hit moving or fortified targets with high precision from over 70 kilometers away. France is now supplying Ukraine with roughly 50 of these lethal packages every month. These precision weapons allow Ukraine's Air Force to strike command posts, troop barracks, drone hubs, and supply depots with minimal collateral damage, and most importantly, without having to put pilots in serious jeopardy by flying low and slow over Russian air defenses. Paired with the F-16's advanced radar targeting systems and the Mirage 2000's battlefield agility, these weapons are allowing Ukraine to pick apart Russia's battlefield structure one critical node at a time. This was not random. This was a strategic decapitation planned down to the building, and it's a nightmare scenario for the Russian military. So it's worth asking why Russia bleeds officers like a stuck pig. Well, at first glance it might seem strange. Why are there so many Russian officers near the front lines getting killed in these strikes? Shouldn't field-grade officers be back coordinating the fight from safe positions? Well, the answer is baked into the very DNA of the Russian military. Unlike NATO armies, Russia does not have a professional non-commissioned officer corps, NCOs. The sergeants and the senior enlisted leaders who, in Western militaries, are trusted to run daily operations and keep junior troops healthy. Instead, the Russian system is officer-heavy by necessity. Lieutenants, captains, and majors handle duties that Western armies would trust to a staff sergeant or a master sergeant. Non-commissioned officers are the backbone of the U.S. military. These are enlisted personnel who rise to leadership roles but are not fully commissioned officers. In the U.S. Army, this typically starts at sergeant, but once in a blue moon corporal, and goes all the way up to command sergeant major. To reach the level of NCO, a soldier must have a specific amount of time in the Army, a predefined amount of time in their previous rank or grade, and completion of some kind of leadership school. If junior officers communicate and execute the commander's intent, it's the NCOs who are responsible for carrying out the tactics of the mission. For instance, if the platoon leader says, "Take that airfield," then it's up to the platoon sergeant, an NCO, to figure out what squads to commit and the best way to use his resources. NCOs are also tasked with ensuring the troops under their control are healthy and fit for combat. This is illustrated in what's called a LACE report. After performing a battle drill or some kind of action, the NCO will yell out LACE, and the squad leaders will then check their troops for liquids, ammunition, casualties, and equipment. So anybody hurt, check your ammo, drink water, and make sure your night vision is still tied down. On the Russian side, they rely almost exclusively on junior officers to do the jobs of NCOs. As you can imagine, when Russia loses a bunch of officers at the front line, it disrupts the command structure. Without NCOs, Russian officers have to micromanage everything, from logistics to tactical decisions, all while keeping barely trained conscripts from melting down under pressure. And because there are so few layers between general officers and the frontline soldiers, Russian captains and majors often find themselves dangerously exposed. This is why early in the war there were so many reports of Russia losing so many officers and commanders. In 2022 alone, Russia lost 11 generals. The battlefield has evolved, but Russia's top-down brittle command model has not. So when precision-guided bombs fall on a command post, the blast radius hits harder than just the physical damage. It severs the nerve endings of Russia's entire battlefield network. Killing a handful of captains or battalion commanders in a Western army would definitely hurt, but to be honest, the sergeants would pick up the slack and drive the mission forward in the near term. This would directly minimize the paralysis normally resulting from a lack of officers. In the Russian system, losing officers often means a work stoppage, units freeze, morale collapses, and coordinated assaults fizzle into small, disjointed firefights. This explains why Ukrainians are focusing so heavily on command posts right now. They're not just targeting troops, they're targeting Russia's ability to think, to adapt, and to react. The F-16 Fighting Falcon wasn't just built for dogfights, it was engineered to be a multi-role powerhouse. And in the context of Ukraine's evolving air campaign, it's proven to be the exact kind of flexible, lethal platform needed to shatter Russian logistics and command centers with surgical precision. At the core of its ground strike capability is its advanced fire control and sensor suite. The F-16's AN/APG-83 ASA radar, on upgraded models, and lightning or sniper targeting pods give pilots the ability to identify, designate, and engage ground targets with high resolution and high precision, all while flying at high subsonic speeds and evading enemy detection. These systems allow the F-16s to deliver GPS-guided munitions like the GBU-62 and laser-guided bombs like the Paveway series with pinpoint accuracy, day or night, regardless of weather. But it's not just the tech, it's the Ukrainian tactics. The F-16's fly-by-wire control system and aerodynamic design enable the high-speed, low-level ingress and egress that Ukraine has been performing, allowing it to get in and out of contested airspace quickly. Plus, even though the F-16 is not a stealth fighter, its relatively small radar cross-section, its fast acceleration, and its compatibility with electronic countermeasures also give the F-16 a survivability edge over older platforms like Ukraine's Soviet-era MiG-29s or Su-25s. And now, paired with French Mirage 2000s and Western munitions, the F-16 forms the backbone of a truly modern strike package, fast, adaptable, and hard to stop. In the hands of Ukrainian pilots trained to NATO standards, the F-16 is no longer a symbol of Western support. It's a scalpel, and Russia's bleeding. It's ultimately a strategic shift with lasting consequences. Ukraine's use of Western-supplied multi-role fighters has fundamentally reshaped the tempo and the reach of its warfighting strategy. Before the F-16s and the Mirages entered the skies over Eastern Europe, Ukrainian air operations were largely constrained to defensive standoff strikes or kamikaze drone runs, limited by the persistent threat of Russian air defense systems and a severe shortage of precision munitions. Every sortie was a gamble, every deep strike a high-risk endeavor. But that calculus has changed. The arrival of modern fighter jets with advanced radar targeting pods and onboard electronic warfare capabilities has allowed Ukraine to press beyond the front line, past the static trench maps and drone corridors, and reach into Russia's operational rear. For the first time in this war, Ukraine isn't just defending territory, it's targeting the very infrastructure that keeps the Russian war machine moving with aircraft, not just with HIMARS or drone strikes. Field-grade officers, artillery coordinators, and drone commanders, once relatively safe in buildings 40 or 50 kilometers from the front, are now realizing that nowhere is safe. Ukrainians are deliberately hollowing out the middle tier of Russian command structure, the layer that translates Moscow's flawed strategy into battlefield execution. That erosion is already showing in Russia's disjointed offensive attempts in Donetsk and Kharkiv. And unlike earlier phases of the war, this isn't an isolated success driven by lucky intelligence or a one-time hardware infusion. It is sustained. France is sending monthly shipments of smart bombs. The Netherlands continues to expand its F-16 support. More Ukrainian pilots are cycling through training in Arizona and Romania. Every week that goes by adds to the country's air dominance, while the Russian Air Force still flies Soviet-era aircraft built for a different era of warfare. This isn't just battlefield attrition, it's strategic degradation. Russian command capability is being dismantled by a country that not long ago didn't even have air superiority over its own airspace. And that's the lasting consequence. Russia is no longer fighting a near peer without resources, it's facing a peer with Western capabilities, Western doctrine, and Western resolve, fused with the kind of national motivation no Kremlin propaganda can match. The Ukrainians are playing the long game, and now they have the tools to win it, one dead Russian colonel at a time. That's it for today, friends. Subscribing to this channel really helps it grow and makes me look like less of an a-hole when I hold this mug that says I'm kind of a big deal on YouTube. And as always, glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. Crimea is Ukraine.